hopefully they get those things back up and running very quickly. Now, we're continuing to stay on top of the track for Hurricane Dorian as it continues its slow movement towards the northwest. We are expecting that turn towards the northeast.
Stay with us here on WESH News. We have much more after the break.
Localized flooding, and certainly at the beaches, some wind, flooding, storm surge, and a tornado threat and waterspouts. And that's at its peak this afternoon, through this evening and overnight, then through most of tomorrow, quickly diminishing tomorrow evening and overnight. We already have heavy rain and storms out there right now, Corey.
Yeah, Mike, the local rain now, it's a big part of the story. Some of these are sending out some gusty winds, but because of the northeasterly flow that we have, we're seeing these showers move from offshore over the land. And 5-week first alert Doppler HD has a lot of the really bright colors stretching from southeast Georgia, Waycross, Blackshear as well, curving back toward west of Lake City near Live Oak. So as we put it into motion, you can see that movement too, basically from the northeast down to the southwest. A lot of the rain now, it's well inland, but this is a steady stream. We're getting a few showers here and there in Duval County. These are mainly on the north side, and they're really close to the radar, so they're kind of hard to pick out here, too. There's one just to the west of Highway 301 near Bryceville. As we zoom down to St. Johns County, where you just saw the First Alert Skycam Network live, the rain, it is now west of most of St. Augustine. We got a lot of the streets on here. There's West King Street and State Road 16. This little batch of showers is moving southwest between about 35 and 40. Zion Hill Church neighborhood right now. There's Molasses Junction at 418, Bostwick, and the Bostwick Baptist Church neighborhood at 435. And there's more where this came from, too. So those of you in St. Augustine, at St. Augustine Beach, Anastasia Island, it is about to start raining again just within probably the next 5 or 10 minutes. That is heavy rain headed your way. Here's Palatka. This is State Road 309, very near the airport, US 17. Some moderate to heavy rain there on the northwest side of town. Most of the impacts over the next day or two will be at the beaches, Stacy.
They will, and we've already been seeing our seas really increase the last several days. Well, even more so now that Hurricane Dorian is finally slowly moving this way up towards our coast. So we do have very high current risk out there today. That's why it's been encouraged that you do not go into the water. We have those northeast winds today at 25 to 30 miles per hour. That's giving us a surf of about 8 to 15 feet. But notice it does increase as we head into Wednesday. Still a very high risk of rip currents. Winds will be out of the northeast at 30 to 40 plus miles per hour as Hurricane Dorian will be right off of our coast. That puts that surf in the 15 to 20 foot plus range there. By Thursday, we're still dealing with high rip currents, but the storm will be pushing off to the north and east. That will leave us with west winds now at 15 to 20 miles per hour. That will give us still pretty high surf of about 4 to 8 foot there. Pretty good for the surfers, nonetheless. Friday, we're back down to a moderate risk of rip currents. The winds will be a lot less, and that surf will be at about 1 to 2 feet. So we have a couple more days of very dangerous surf and rip currents out there, Mike.
Yeah, Stacey, in the highways and interstates, there's not as much traffic for the most part this afternoon. We do have a problem in St. Johns County on Interstate 95 near the International Golf Parkway. Fire department there just put out this car fire, which obviously destroyed the vehicle, but lanes down to one lane there at I-95 and International Golf Parkway. That should get cleaned up pretty quickly, but for the most part, the volume of traffic helping out since there are so many businesses and schools that are now closed. Coming up in the next full First Alert forecast, we'll be covering the movement, obviously, of Dorian. We'll have the new numbers out in track forecast within the next 30 to 40 minutes or so, and we're updating you on those bands that are coming in off the Atlantic that have the potential to produce a waterspout or tornadoes.
All right, Mike, we just heard from St. Johns County leaders. We expect to hear from Nassau County leaders in the next 15 minutes or so. Of course, we're right here. We'll bring it to you live as it happens.
Yeah, but here is the latest right now, what we know in terms of preps and everything for Dorian. St. Johns County, St. Augustine Beach will have a curfew in place at 8 p.m. for evacuation zones A and B, St. Augustine Beach. That curfew will be in effect from 8 tonight until 6 tomorrow morning. Evacuations also went into effect in Clay County 1 hour ago. Nassau County, Duval County, Clay, Putnam, St. John's, Camden County, and Glenn County Public Schools have extended closures through Thursday.
And again, you just heard from St. Johns County leaders saying we are not out of the woods yet. They say this could still be a flooding concern with Hurricane Dorian as the storm still yet to approach our coast. Action News Jack's Bridget Matter takes up our team coverage now in St. Augustine Beach, where they had high tide at about noon today.
We've seen a lot of people out on St. Augustine Beach, even some people in the water. One thing we noticed, there's already a significant amount of beach erosion. The storm's not even here yet, and we're seeing just how much these waves have eroded away at the beach. Today, dozens flocked to St. Augustine Beach to watch the waves. Some even got into the water, including children.
I think the people who are actually in the water are a little bit out of their minds.
Conditions at the beaches are dangerous as Dorian makes its way towards the East Coast.
It's beautiful. It's rough. I wouldn't be out there in it. We just come to look at it.
Waves at the beaches were high, and there was already a significant amount of erosion and sea foam. People here say they wanted to come out before conditions were too dangerous.
We've been prepared for days. The news has done a really good job of keeping everybody up to date.
While conditions may be appealing to surfers, just know it's extremely dangerous to get out in these waters. For now, we're in St. Augustine Beach. Bridget Matter, CBS 47, Fox 30, Action News Jax.
And we have a live look for you at Lake Worth. Look at the water just coming up against that pier there as we zoom out. Rough surf, and this is why anybody on any of the beaches along our coast. Our coverage continues in a moment.
Tracking Dorian in terms of the storm surge, again, 3 to 6 feet in terms of storm surge. Flagler, Volusia, and Brevard already seeing the ocean increasing. And here's the last thing I want to show you, folks. We're tracking Dorian. We'll do so all the way through the evening and overnight hours, telling you what we're experiencing and what to expect. But you know this, the calendar, it's early September. We have a brand new tropical storm. This is Ferdinand over in the western Gulf of Mexico. Looks like it will impact Mexico and possibly South Texas in the coming 24 to 48 hours. And if that's not enough, we could be seeing a brand new tropical depression or a tropical storm in the eastern Atlantic as we go through the next 12 to 24 hours. It's that time of year. It's that time of hurricane season. And again, we'll keep you up to date on Hurricane Dorian through the afternoon and evening hours. Back to you.
All right, Brooks, thanks so much. Although Hurricane Dorian is on the horizon, people are still visiting the beach.
Yeah, but one of the main bridges is shutting down. News Station's Danielle Lama has that story.
We are along A1A here in New Smyrna Beach, and you can see behind me there are some officers working here on the A1A causeway. They look to be stopping every car. They're looking at IDs, and they're trying to make sure that the people who are going over to the beach actually have a reason to do so. Here in New Smyrna Beach, we've seen some of these stormy conditions roll in today, higher wind gusts. We've seen some downpours and also those giant waves at the beach. We talked to the mayor earlier today, and he told us one of the things they will be watching is the wind because that could have an impact on these bridges in town.
We're hoping that it stays off coast, but even if it does, there will be impacts. So we hope everyone just gets into safety, lets us assess damages after the storm.
A mandatory evacuation is in effect for Beachside, Volusia County, and a curfew will also begin tonight at 6 p.m. and last until 6 Wednesday morning. In New Smyrna Beach, Danielle Lama, Fox 35 News.
Volusia County holding a news conference this afternoon. Curfew set to take effect just a few hours from now. Some people are worried about their safety. Just take a look at this video from Daytona Beach shores. Police arresting a suspected looter. Sheriff Chitwood assures people the department is working hard to keep them safe.
I can't say this enough, David, and here's my voice. If somebody comes to your house and claims to be a city worker, a county worker, a roofer, an electrician, don't let them in. Call 911 and get the police there as quick as possible.
Flagler now has a curfew for evacuation zones A, B, and F. That goes into effect tonight at 7. Residents were encouraged to be at the shelter earlier today by 3 o'clock.
And in Osceola County, a curfew will go into effect tonight at 11 p.m. to Wednesday at 6 a.m. The county has also issued a voluntary evacuation for low-lying areas as well as mobile homes. And due to Hurricane Dorian, garbage and recycling services in unincorporated Orange County is suspended until after the storm passes. But you still do have a chance to get rid of some of your yard waste if you need to do that. In order to accommodate residents, the landfill will be open today until 5 o'clock. So you've got just a little over 30 minutes. Once the storm has passed, emergency notifications will be lifted.
Take a look at this video out of the Bahamas. 20-foot waves slamming into a home on Grand Bahama. The home already sits at least 20 feet off the ground. The floodwaters continued to rise as Hurricane Dorian slowly made its way across the island.
And take a look at this video. This is from earlier this morning. Waves crashing ashore in Port St. Lucie as well.
People all along Florida's East Coast are now bracing for Dorian. We're expected to see the impact as the day goes on, more of the storm impacting us. This is video from Vero Beach. You can see the rough surf coming in there.
And the news station, of course, is monitoring Hurricane Dorian every step of the way. We will have expanded coverage around the clock for you. Also, be sure and download our Fox 35 weather app, where you can get the very latest on Dorian's track, and you can watch us live on that app as well, even if you end up losing power. The time right now is 4:23. We'll be right back.
Bigger concern when it comes to storm surge. We already saw some overwashing into the dunes and even into the streets in Daytona Beach here about lunchtime today. Looking ahead to about midnight, 1 o'clock, as we approach our next high tide cycle, where the water just goes that much higher as well. Tony, I think we're going to be concerned once again about erosion and overwashing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Again, the next high tide is going to be about 1:15 in the morning tomorrow. We'll have those tide times coming up here, guys, in the next couple of minutes, and more county-by-county forecast straight ahead.
All right, looking forward to it. Thank you, Tony. And we want you to stay with us here on WESH News. We have been broadcasting since 4 o'clock yesterday morning. We will continue to stay on the air until this storm passes our viewing area. We'll be right back.
What will you do when the power goes out? Power outages can be unpredictable, inconvenient.
It offshore, at least. By the way, we have a new tropical storm that's just developed off the coast of Mexico, but will be moving into Mexico. That's certainly no local impact. And we do have some other activity, another one central Atlantic, southeast of Bermuda, and a wave that's just come off the coast of Africa with at least some potential to develop. Interesting teleconnection, though, you guys. And another way to see that this storm's going to head north would be the West Pacific. And let me introduce you to Ling Ling. That's a tropical storm that will soon be a typhoon. And the reason I point it out is, remember that Bermuda high that we were talking about over the Atlantic, and the Cork is the hurricane in the stream? Well, look at this. There's also a big high over the Pacific. And Ling Ling is going to go due north up the coast, just off the coast of China, just like Dorian is going to. There's literally a connection with the West Pacific, and that gives us confidence in our forecast, believe it or not, of Dorian. All right, 5 Street First Alert Doppler HD. Bands of showers and storms continue to move quickly to the south and west. We're catching a break in most of the metro area, although there's some heavier showers now around Dinsmore, and heavy rain getting ready to plow into St. Augustine right now. Some gusty winds where it's 84, and a north to northeasterly breeze about 20 miles per hour. Some of the specific local impacts, Corey?
County by county, we're going, Mike. We're going to start here in Northeast Florida, Duval County. Winds 30 to 50 plus. If you live along the coast, that's where those higher speeds are going to be. Those waves 15 to 20 feet as well. Coastal surge 3 to 6 feet. That river surge, can't forget about that, around 1 to 3 feet, and 2 to 4 inches of rainfall expected. Down in St. Johns County, those winds 35 to 55 plus, higher along the coast. Waves 15 to 20 feet. There's that storm surge. Rainfall a little bit higher, again, along the coast, around 2 to 4 inches. In Nassau County, winds 30 to 50, plus a little higher than that, especially over Amelia Island. Waves 15 to 20 feet. There's that storm surge around 3 to 6. And as we move inland a little bit, in Baker County, those winds 15 to 30, and that rainfall around 1 to 3 inches as well. Mike, as we get rid of Dorian, it is going to get hot.
It is going to get hot. You can see our first look 7-day forecast here. The temperature's soaring. So once we get rid of Dorian tomorrow night, it's in the 90s by the time we get to Thursday, Friday, right on into your weekend. And the first look forecast coming up in a few minutes. We're going to take a look at a really intense band of rain and storms headed into St. Johns County.
Some brand new video out of the Bahamas showing a girl taking her dog out to safety as they were rescued there in the Bahamas. You see her there in the distance with the pink shirt on, holding her dog as she's getting rescued.
And take a look at this. Abaco Islands, folks there being rescued by trucks and tractors, front-end loaders, getting rescued there in the back end of that big dump truck there as they're driving along roads that are really no business being driven on. We got more coming up for you right here on Action News Jax.
East actually happens. We were talking about this yesterday. If it continues a little bit more on this trajectory before taking that turn, that could bring even greater impacts into parts of our area. And that is what some of the earlier model runs are suggesting here, the 12Z model runs from this morning. So we'll have to wait and see on that. This is, again, the 11 a.m. official track, keeping it off our coast, but it's still a major hurricane. It's still going to have very strong winds. And at ahead of that storm, it's still pumping in a lot of wind and wave action out of the east-northeast. That's going to help the tides really get high. And that's what we're really concerned about here. Regardless, even when that track was a little bit further out to the east, we were looking at major flooding concerns. Now with the track maybe a little bit closer to the coast, we really got to be watching those tides. Elevated coming up here tonight after midnight, about 9.5 feet. That'll cause some flooding along the coastal roads out there. The Highway 80 area might not flood at 9.5, it looks like. It looks like now that they raised Highway 80, that might be the threshold closer to about 10 feet or so. But again, a lot of those roads, the secondary roads along the coastal areas, we're probably going to see some water over that tonight. Definitely going to see the major flooding going on here for the Wednesday afternoon tide, expected at 1:10 in the afternoon. Could be up to about 11.5 feet, and then even the overnight tide expected to get up to about 11.3 feet. The Hurricane Matthew was the peak tide. We peaked at 12.56. So again, we're going to be watching those tides very high, very critical, I should say. That will be the main threat what we're looking at right now, high tide flooding concerns. Now, the rain and the wind could be increasing a bit, especially for the coastal areas of Chatham and into Beaufort County if that track continues a little bit close to the coast before taking that turn. And we might have to bump up that severe threat as well if that official track, again, moves it closer to our area for Wednesday into Wednesday night. But based on what we're looking at right now, we're still looking at a solid 3 to 7 inches of rain possible along the coastal areas, maybe closer to that 7+ inches into Beaufort County if that storm gets closer. So those outer bands might try to persist a little bit longer. With the tide being the major concern, isolated tornadoes can't be ruled out. Power outages are probable here with those winds gusting maybe to 80 miles per hour in some of those outer rain bands. Can't rule that out right now. Again, it all depends on the track, and it's going to be a very tight track of where we're going to see the strongest winds and where we're going to see the winds gusting a little bit less as you move on inland. Now, a solid 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gust for a lot of the Savannah area into Effingham County, inland at Jasper, into Hampton County, heading back into Hinesville. If you're watching in Ludowici, Jessup, back into the Waycross area, 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts are possible, maybe 1 to 3 inches of rain. Power outages are possible with a 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gust. You can't rule it out, but I don't think anything too widespread, and certainly much lower impacts in yellow here, which includes Vidalia, Swainsboro, into the Millen area, back into Baxley and Jeff County area near Hazelhurst, and maybe gusts to 40 miles per hour, less than an inch of rain. Low threat for any tornadoes, and power outages not likely based on those winds remaining below tropical storm. I'm going to show you some of the latest model runs. This is the 12Z model run as far as the probability here of getting the highest wind gusts out there. And watch what happens. We've got the timestamp here starting out Wednesday morning. You can see we're getting some of the winds gusting a little bit down in the Glenn County, but the morning should be okay starting out, but quickly going downhill as Dorian gets closer to the coast. And look at this, we're getting into strong tropical storm, maybe some hurricane gusts here felt along the coastal areas, especially as you get up into Beaufort County and then up towards the Charleston area as we go into Thursday morning at 8 a.m. And then we quickly start to see this storm move out of the area, winds decrease, and we might even see some sunshine before the day is out on Thursday. That is the GFS. The European model is a little bit more of something we don't want to see out here. Now, this is expecting a little bit closer center of the storm coming into the area, and you can see we could get some of those hurricane gusts even into the coastal areas here, up and down the coast, all of our area, overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning, and then finally moving out. This is a little bit slower as well, so it could take a little bit longer to get that out of here. So again, what we're looking at now is the possibility of seeing those winds increase a little bit more. Tropical storm force winds are going to be likely here, very likely, on the Hilton Head and the Tybee Island, and then lesser amounts as you move across the inland areas. That's why we're looking at the impacts as far as any power outages, much higher here along the coast, and much less likely as you move on inland with the less impact from the wind. So we'll show you what we have. Again, if you're heading out there tonight, I think we'll see some scattered showers. We got some breezes out there. This is not associated with Dorian in any stretch of the imagination in here for today. Now, tomorrow, especially as we go through late tomorrow morning into the afternoon. That's when I think we're going to start to see maybe some of the outer rain bands trying to make their way on in. And we have to wait and see how close it is. Look at the tight, very fine line between who is seeing the rain and who is just seeing some breezy conditions throughout the day as we continue to see that storm make its way off our coast, closely, hopefully off our coast, as we go through Wednesday night and into Thursday morning before finally moving away from our area. So it is going to be close. We are going to watch this closely here. This track may change. Continue to get updates. We are going to be putting out the latest 5 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Should be out in the next 15 minutes or so. So we'll have it ready for you coming up at the top of the hour. For now, just continue to get your updates on all of our social media platforms.
We feel those impacts here locally. Let's go through a Futurecast. 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Center circulation still off the east coast of Florida. This is a model run that updates about every 3 hours, so we continue to get brand new information coming in. This begins to graze our coastline from Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday evening. This would also be pushing the water on sort of that north to northwest side toward the coastline as winds are counterclockwise at the surface. Along with that, tropical storm force winds will start to spread from the coast a little bit farther inland, even west of I-95. And then the center, notice how it's trying to make that turn, but it does nudge slightly to the north-northeast. So that is why Charleston right now is in a hurricane warning. They could have hurricane force wind gusts start to come in Wednesday night into early Thursday. And that would also push a little more rain back toward Beaufort and Jasper counties. And we've pretty much all along had the winds gusting to around 70 miles per hour at the coastline. And that certainly is a possibility if you do live into Beaufort County. There's the center of Dorian as we go into 10 a.m. on Thursday, as our impacts will start to wind down very quickly here across southeast Georgia and the low country. Let's quickly show you the future wind gusts across our area. Keep in mind, this model data will continue to update about every 3 to 6 hours, so we'll get a fresh look at some new runs in here. But we are forecasting winds 40 to 50 miles per hour gusting Wednesday afternoon. This is into Wednesday evening. And then watch what happens after sunset Wednesday. So we're looking at probably late Wednesday evening into Wednesday night. Winds may gust. These are wind gusts, not sustained. So the wind may gust for a couple seconds to about 60 miles per hour or a little bit higher. And that does jump up to 66. And then moving into Thursday morning, some of the worst of the weather would start to transition to our north, and winds inland less. So that's kind of the latest look at Hurricane Dorian. Stay with WJCL 22 and WJCL22.com for the very latest. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. And coming up at the top of the hour, we have WJCL 22 News, other coverage, and news reports from all across the coastal empire, southeast Georgia, and the low country. Stay with us.
Corey Silla and Stacey Garville with Mike over there at the First Alert Weather Center. Mike?
Yeah, we are all tracking, of course, Dorian round the clock, and Garrett will be here shortly after midnight. Better be anyway, right? He's coming in after and then into the morning hours tomorrow as Dorian makes that move. You guys know it's out soon, but also of note, a new tropical depression. Tropical depression number 8 has formed over the eastern Atlantic.
A few areas we're watching way out there. No movements toward Florida, at least what we see right now.
Western Gulf, we have a new tropical storm. We're not covering those carefully because they are of no impact. And, of course, the story is Dorian. So let's head to the wall here where we'll have very soon the new numbers in from the National Hurricane Center and an updated track forecast. But this track is pretty certain now. That's some good news as the turn is to the north now, offshore of Jacksonville and all of Florida, but not that far offshore. Remember, the cone has nothing to do with anything other than the statistical average error over the past 30 years at each point here. So my point of that is that the wind field is much wider than the cone is. It will be at northeast Florida and southeast Georgia's latitude through the afternoon tomorrow and into tomorrow evening. And those new numbers coming out in an updated track just about any time now. And again, I would not expect a major deviation from where we are right now. This is primarily a coastal storm, a coastal hurricane. We're putting it as a 7 on the impact scale, primarily because it is going to just scour the beaches. Unfortunately, it will completely reconfigure our coastline yet again for the third time in the last 4 years by a hurricane. So expect winds of 30 to 50 plus miles per hour at the beaches, a storm surge of several feet at least, rainfall averaging about 3 to 5 inches, give or take. That includes what's falling today, and wave heights that may be up to and in excess of 20 feet. You move inland, it's not quite a non-story, but it's not much of a story. It's a 3 on the hurricane impact scale. There will be some river surge and its tributaries as well, so that's something to consider. And there will be an isolated tornado threat, gusty winds, but not overly strong, and they won't close the bridges inland based on a threshold of sustained 40-mile-per-hour winds, I should emphasize, and rainfall averaging about 1 to 4 inches. The hurricane right now sitting about 241 miles southeast of downtown Jacksonville, about 164 miles to the east-southeast of Daytona Beach. The eye starting to wrap up a little bit more again, becoming a little bit more evident. And here's where it's going to head, right up the coast, just a little east of Jacksonville. In the meantime, we already have some heavy rain bands and thunderstorms, Corey, moving across the area right now.
So many days, Mike, we have been obviously talking about Dorian. We cannot ignore the local rain that we have now. 5-week first alert Doppler HD has some of these heavy rain bands well to the west of Lake City, some isolated activity in Columbia County around Lake City. We're going to put this into motion here. You can see these moving in from the northeast, basically moving from northeast to southwest, in some cases around 30 to 40 miles per hour. We have one shower. This is just south of White House and south of I-10 in the west side of Duval County, and that's about it. There's another shower here in extreme southwest Nassau County, but there's going to be showers here and showers there. They're going to put out some gusty winds and maybe some lightning. Not a whole lot of lightning, but we're going to have to watch these really closely for some isolated water spouts. It just got done pouring in St. Augustine. Very heavy shower. I'm going to zoom in on this here between US 1 and I-95, basically west of St. Augustine Shores, over 207 and I-95 over Wildwood Drive as well. So I'm going to track this. This is moving to the southwest at about 40 miles per hour. So Palatka heads up, more rain headed near you. Here we go. At about 40 miles per hour. Spuds, 443. That is 4 minutes from right now. There's Hastings, 447. Cypress Point at 455. Palatka there at 502. And then the Lundy area at 503. There are just going to continue to be a few showers here and there, maybe a little bit less as we get into this evening and tonight. We will be tracking it very closely. Here's the St. Augustine First Alert Skycam Network, too. It is cloudy. The wind, can see it ruffling those trees just a little bit. It's 82 degrees. And there is that wind, north-northeast 22. For more on that wind, let's head over to Stacy.
All right, Corey, thanks so much. And we'll talk about some of our current wind speeds. They're still pretty breezy out there. It's going to be increasing a little bit more, though, as Hurricane Dorian gets closer to our area. A few of these buoys out here that are near Dorian are already showing anywhere from 40 to even 50 mile per hour winds. We've been dealing with our wind speeds of around 20, 25 miles per hour with higher gusts, up near 30 miles per hour, except for when some of these storms roll. They could quickly produce a wind gust up to 40, 45 miles per hour, but that's pretty brief. This is a look at sustained wind speeds out of the north and east. Brunswick, 17 miles per hour. In Fernandina and Jacksonville, we've got between 20 and 25 mile per hour sustained winds, gusts up near 30, though. And in St. Augustine, we have that sustained northeast wind at 22 miles per hour. So winds are not as strong through Lake City or Gainesville, but Waycross and Valdosta, you're still seeing some sustained winds right around 10 to 15 miles per hour. So in Duval County, west side, north wind at 21 miles per hour. Mayport, sustained wind at about 24 miles per hour with those higher gusts. Again, they've been up near 30, a 32 mile per hour wind gusts right now in Southside, and in Jacksonville, gusting to about 28. Now, tropical storm force winds are at 39 miles per hour or greater. So I think we'll see some tropical storm force wind gusts as Hurricane Dorian gets a little bit closer, and the timing on that will mostly be through the day tomorrow, Mike.
Yeah, Stacey, people want to know, of course, exactly what is going to happen where they live. We cover a large area, Jacksonville, all of northeastern Florida, and much of southeastern Georgia. We're going to break it down for you, county by county, and track those winds as they increase over the night tonight through tomorrow evening, hour by hour in the next First Alert forecast.
A live look now over Jacksonville Beach, and just moments ago I saw Ocean Rescue driving along here, and it seems like the crowd has actually picked up a bit. Action News Jax Ben Becker picks up our team coverage. He's live along the shoreline, and Ben, am I right? It seems like I'm seeing more people than the last time I looked at the live view.
So, yeah, a lot more people are coming out here, and also the wind is picking up as well. You know, Mike, everyone else was just talking about that. It's definitely a stiffer breeze than it's been earlier this afternoon. You can start feeling the effects a little bit more as the afternoon continues, as Dorian makes its way towards Florida. You see behind me a number of people here. Also, the water as well. A lot of churn there, a lot of motion in the ocean, if you will, this afternoon. And of course, the lifeguards do not want you in the water. That's why there are two red flags, double red flags all afternoon. Of course, that went back to yesterday as well. And you look in the distance here at Ocean Rescue, you see someone in the observation tower. They are there to keep an eye on the water and eyes on the people to make sure people stay safe and they do not go in the water. Now, I was talking to the captain with Ocean Rescue earlier this afternoon. The moment he got a call that someone was in the water, it was actually a call about a child. Take a listen to this call and check out his reaction.
We have a report of small children being put into the ocean. Children walk a beach by themselves. Can I check their welfare, please?
He was not happy to hear that news, and that's been the deal all afternoon here. As we've mentioned, it's not just dozens of people. There's hundreds of people here at the beach checking it out, and I'd say dozens of people in the water, not only children sometimes, but surfers as well. And I talked to the captain, and he just wants to remind people, stay safe and stay out of the water.
Do the same thing every storm is tell people, please stay out of the water. And it's not please, it's you must stay out of the water. It's too dangerous, especially for your kids. If you care about your kids, and I assume you do, then you should keep them out of the ocean.
And just to give you an idea of where we are at Ocean Rescue, there is the pier off in the distance. You can see just some of the white caps there as this water rolls in, and this wind is definitely picking up. Ahead later on at 6 o'clock, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the pier and the damage it sustained in the past and some of the concerns with Dorian rolling in. Reporting live at Jax Beach, Ben Becker, CBS 47 Fox 30, Action News Jets.
Of course, we'll want to keep an eye on the pier as well with Matthew. A big chunk of it was washed away. Let's move on now to Action News Jax Russell Colbert. He is in the First Alert Storm Tracker at Ponte Vedra Beach. And Russell, you saw a home that had been strapped down, the owner tying it down, literally.
Yeah, let's get you right out live to it. We can show you this from the 360 HD cam here on the First Alert Storm Tracker. Look at that. Probably a dozen straps there trying to hold the roof of this home on in South Ponte Vedra Boulevard. And if you take a look, bear with me because I have to move this camera, zooming down. You can see, look at this. It's tethered to his car there, a Cadillac Escalade. So, hey, you do you. We don't know if this will work or if it will not work, but it's certainly creative. We've heard of this kind of way to help a mobile home or structure similar to that. You strap it down with tethers like this. So obviously this homeowner believes their roof is a little vulnerable, taking every precaution here, and they are strapping it down. I want to show you right over here. If I can slide just to the right of the home and then zoom in, you can see in this Ponte Vedra Beach area, Volano Beach area, just how close the water is to the homes. Look at that. We went out and walked it a little bit ago, and it's just not far at all, a few dozen yards at most. That water creeping in right there. And then you can see one of the tethers anchored right there to a cement block on the ground. Hey, it's certainly creative, and we'll see how it all. You bet we will follow up and see how this homeowner did. But people here are taking this seriously. Most of the homes here are boarded up with sandbags, and we've already seen some of the signs from Dorian, as we talked about earlier. The outer bands, the gusts of 30 miles per hour, the winds right around 20 miles per hour sustained. So this is something we will continue to monitor for you. For now, let's go back to you guys in the studio.
All right, I've seen tying down roofs before, but I've never seen connecting it to a car. And in all seriousness, I hope that guy has another car, because he may need another car when the water starts rising near that house right there, because I think that's going to be the serious concern. All right, Hurricane Dorian lashed the Bahamas for more than 24 hours, rolling now, getting a glimpse at what's left, and frankly, there's not much. Action News Jack's Paige Kelton is live at the storm desk. Paige, the U.S. Coast Guard is helping rescue people from Abaco Island.
Yeah, that island devastated. Storm surge topping 20 feet on that island. We're just now starting to get a look at the damage from the air. Everything underwater. This is near the airport on Abaco. Docks and buildings swallowed by storm surge. The pilot in this video, you can't hear it, but the pilot is saying everything is just gone. People are venturing out of their homes where so many, well, they captured terrifying video of water coming through their windows. Today, it is all about search and rescue.
As these helos bring injured persons out of Abaco, we're going to inject Defense Force Marines on those return flights to Abaco so that we can increase our manpower on that island.
So when they're evacuating people, the evacuees offload and then the Marines get back on and go to Abaco. Right now, we know at least 5 people died on Abaco, but that could change as crews get into areas that are still underwater. Follow me on Twitter at PaigeANJax for constant updates. Again, we're constantly getting images, video coming into our newsroom from the Bahamas, and we will bring that to you here. Paige Kelton, CBS 47, Fox 30, Action News Jax.
We're Paige. And Action News Jax, Christy Turner now is at Atlantic Beach where things are starting to get windy out there.
If you look down here at this discolored sand, that's where the waves were brushing up against the edge of this sand dune. Also over here, the sand is already washing up the end of this walkover. Whipping winds and an angry sea in Atlantic Beach.
Usually the ocean doesn't look anything like this. Those white caps as far as the eye can see.
You can see a brave kite surfer in the ocean. At high tide Tuesday afternoon, waves crashed at the start of the sand dunes.
We're crossing our fingers that we keep that dune again because it obviously provides a lot of protection for the neighborhood.
Neighbors are waiting anxiously as Hurricane Dorian inches closer.
I'm concerned that if this is what high tide's doing now, in 24 hours, I don't know where the waves are going to stop.
Christy Turner, CBS 47, Fox 30, Action News Jax.
And now more pictures of the destruction from Marsh Harbor in Abaco. These are some pictures shared on the Facebook group Living on Island Time, and you can just see parts of the island decimated. We're coming right back in a moment.
Central Florida may not be in line for a direct hit from Hurricane Dorian, but that doesn't mean it won't feel the effects. Something the Hurley family knows all too well.
The wind wasn't as bad as the water coming in, and it came in slow and it went out slow.
So after Hurricane Irma, the water in this backyard was high, really high, like the height of this trash can. So what did they decide to do? The homeowners put it on stilts. Now the house is 10 feet in the air.
As the house was on the ground, 2 feet of water was here. And you could actually hear the water hitting up underneath the house.
It's been a long and grueling process. Nearly 2 years and $150,000 later, the house is off the ground, and the Hurleys are finally back inside, just in time for another hurricane to roll on by. But staying away was never an option.
Well, you'd have to be here for sunset and sunrises, because in the beautiful breeze.
And as the hurricane creeps closer, the Hurley family spent the afternoon together, enjoying the calm before the storm in a house that survived them before.
We don't want to move.
I'm Evan Fitzgerald, Fox 35 News.
Well, if you're like us, you've been prepping for Hurricane Dorian for days and days and days. And
how many days?
Fatigue, multiple. The fatigue and anxiety, though, getting to some people.
And news station anchor Adam Shutoff, he went to Lake Eola Park where people were looking for a bit of a break before the storm hits.
The good news when you have days and days to prepare ahead of a hurricane is that you have days and days to prepare ahead of a hurricane. You can get everything done that you need to do. You prepare your home and get yourself ready and everything all set. But the bad news is that also you have days to prepare for a hurricane, days to think about that. And mentally, that can really wear on you. So we caught up with a number of people here in downtown at Lake Eola Park, burning off a little steam before the weather gets bad.
Just getting the kids out of the house before it really comes and we have to stay inside and make it a little rambunctious. So
we've been checking out the storm all week, and we decided to get out and do something different other than watch the roll of the thing on the screen.
We have no Instagram page. We're just letting the dogs out to
burn off some steam and energy as well as the kids.
What is it like waiting for the hurricane to come when you have kids and you're trying to get everything prepared? What's that time like for you?
Long, drags out. Seems like it's taking forever. We prepared really early. And now preparing early days ago, it seems like it's not happening. And we just try to keep the kids busy as much as possible. Videos, movies, board games.
I mean, mentally, what is it like when you're waiting for days and days for a storm that may not even come?
It's anxiety. Really riddled by anxiety.
What are you expecting?
I'm not sure if it's going to be as bad as we thought, which is great, but I do expect it to be rainy and windy and be safe to be inside.
As Floridians, like you said, the key is preparation. Just to always stay prepared and be calm.
From Wakiola Park in downtown Orlando, I'm Adam Shadoff, Fox 35 News.
And we are keeping you up to date with everything you need to know about Hurricane Dorian.
We certainly are. After the break, Jacksonville could be facing a massive storm surge from Dorian, but that's not stopping people up there from checking out the waves. Stay with us.
There's still a tropical storm warning. You saw Britley's report talking about those tropical storm force winds, but the threat of a hurricane impacting the Treasure Coast is over.
Fantastic.
The storm has also picked up its forward speed. It's moving at 6 miles per hour.
Get out of here. Look at Dorian.
Wow. How about that? So the warnings have been discontinued. The threat of this storm having a huge impact on South Florida is over. What we'll continue to see tonight, the water rising in some levels, especially during high tide after midnight, 1 a.m. And yes, the potential for some rain tonight. But you can see right now, northwest at 6, 110. You can see the storm, the core of the hurricane, as we saw the forecast from the Hurricane Center, well offshore. So yes, we'll have some gusty winds, some periods of rain, and some beach erosion. But again, the hurricane warnings are over.
So glad.
Fantastic. All right.
Happy days.
High five.
Yeah,
Can we do a high five on that, please?
Yeah, give it to you both.
Thank
There
you.
you go. We like that.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
All right, now we're going to go back up to the Treasure Coast and Shane Wright, who is in St. Lucie County. Shane, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, we're at Cove Road Park, and this is a place where people usually come in and put their kayaks. And we spoke to a lady who said she comes here, usually puts her kayak in. Obviously, not a great idea to do that right now or for the next couple of days. She says that the sand usually goes beyond this tree here about 3 to 4 feet. As you can see, the sand is covered, and it actually comes 4 to 5 feet beyond the tree. So definitely some flooding in this area. We did get a notice or some reports of some major coastal flooding and beach erosion all the way from Sebastian Inlet south to the St. Lucie Inlet near this area. So that area right there, especially Hutchinson Island where we were last night, some homes definitely affected. People are going to come back home and see their houses a little bit different than what they left it. So definitely prayers and thoughts to those people there. And some people are thinking, hey, this storm is past. It's time to get out and to experience some things. But there are still some people that are feeling the effects of Dorian, and that's going to be over the next couple of days going to be the case. Back to you guys.
Especially when it comes to the flooding and the high water. Shane, you're absolutely right. Shane, right, thank you very much. We're celebrating a little bit here because of the hurricane warning being lifted at the same time. We have a long way to go for full recovery here because we don't know the extent of the damage. And again, that high tide, again, that will be here in 7 hours.
Yeah, I mean, the beach erosion. Let's take a look at some video out of Sebastian. You can see the blinding driving rain. This is from a little earlier. This is at the Sebastian Inlet. So from Indian River County into Brevard County, the waters are so high there. As you can see, these docks are inundated with water. That's part of the intracoastal, or near the inlet there, and you typically don't see that choppy water up in that area. It's usually smooth as glass.
And as we do, when we're talking about the big picture, hurricane, catastrophic damage, that type of danger, then after the fact, we do worry about the beaches. And I shudder to think some of the battering and beating some of our beaches are taken, and we won't know the extent of that damage for a while now until the water really recedes.
I'm Tiffany Kenny along with Todd McDermott, and our special coverage of Hurricane Dorian continues right after this break.
As Dorian's updated track takes it just offshore, but not by much, 80 to 90 miles, and that means it chews up our beaches.
Next at 5, Action News Jax will have team coverage from Glenn County to Brevard County, plus the latest track in moments. And take a look at this video. It shows the flooding around a home in Freeport, the Bahamas. Look at that, lapping up the second-story stairs there outside of that home.
We'll be right back.
Hey, Mercedes.
TV and online. WTOC. First Alert Weather.
Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service.
Medical malpractice and
Her and I were hit by a big truck, and attorney Dan Newland got me $200,000 for my injury claim.
Water is already coming up and flooding the parking lot here, and that the dock is underwater. So this is some of that high water that we're seeing as Hurricane Dorian churns off the east coast of Florida. And as our meteorologists have been explaining, it pushes that water and sand towards the coastline, and that's where we see not only the beach erosion but the storm surge. And it's important to note this is the beginning. This is going to get worse tonight as the weather worsens, and also high tide. High tide, I think I heard Tony say a little while ago, is coming about 1:15 this morning. And so, or I should say, actually that would be tomorrow morning. It's easy to lose track of time when you're covering a hurricane. But when that high tide comes, and we have these steady tropical storm force winds blowing, and of course the rain, that's when we're going to start seeing some of this flooding. So that is the situation here in Indian River County. Live in Vero Beach, Amanda Dukes, WESH 2 News.
All right, Amanda, thank you so much.
As you heard there at the very end, that wind started to pick up. We're seeing that same type of scenario play out right now up at Daytona Beach, where some flooding is also happening as some of that water continues to get pushed further inland. We'll check back in with Claire Metz a little later on. Our coverage continues with Jim and Meredith coming up after the break.
Now, any burger can come with cheese.
We're here monitoring the conditions across Central Florida.
Giving you the advance warning you need to protect your family.
It's time to preparing everybody just in case.
On air, live on Facebook, and the WESH 2 app.
Chief Meteorologist Tony Manalfi, Meteorologist Amy Sweezy, and the First Alert Weather Team, certified most accurate.
Vero Beach, Florida, and you can see it's taking on a little bit different structure today as well. You don't see a really well-defined eye within this at all like we did yesterday, but you know that Florida and Georgia, North and South Carolina.
Dorian obliterating the Bahamas. Now, relief supplies are on the way.
If somebody comes to your house and claims to be a city worker, a county worker, a roofer, an electrician, don't let them in. Call 911.
Dorian scammers already at it, and the sheriff giving them a strong warning. Lou and Sorrell.
I'm Charles Boy. The news starts out.
Live from the news station, Fox 35 News at 5 starts now.
Right out of the gate at 5 o'clock, we begin with breaking news. The 5 o'clock advisory is out.
Let's get straight to the chief meteorologist, Glenn Richards. Glenn.
That's right. Looks like Dorian's still slowly weakening, which is great news. Again, notice the movement today is slowly now going towards the north. Still a little bit to the west of due north, but for the most part, a much, much weaker system. Tropical storm warnings are still up. That has not changed. Or hurricane warnings are up along the coast. Tropical storm warnings are still up for inland spots. So here's the new information, the new advisory. It's picking up a little bit of force speed. It's not much. It's only an extra 1 mile per hour. Moving officially northwest at 6, but it's almost due north, just slightly west of due north. And the winds are still 110 miles per hour. So that's still going to put the center about 110 miles offshore with winds of 110 miles per hour. So it is not going to be weakening overnight tonight, Eddie. Again, the wind field is going to be about the same as far as energy goes, but the location of the strongest winds are now to the north and also east of the center. We will be 110 miles west of the center, which means it's going to even be very hard to even get hurricane wind gusts to hit our coastline. But there will definitely be gusts of tropical storm force by tomorrow afternoon, up around St. Augustine and Jacksonville. By Thursday, off the Carolinas. After that, long gone, heading up towards eastern Canada. You can see the current wind gusts over the last 24 hours so far. Highest is now 32 in Leesburg for inland central Florida, 37 up in Gainesville. If you're watching us on Fox 51, 41 31 miles per hour so far back over towards Melbourne. So again, along the southern Brevard coastline, those are your tropical storm wind gusts now beginning to slowly move up. So as we go through the night, we're going to see those kinds of wind gusts all the way up to Daytona, and eventually all through Flagler County. Here is that forecast and the timing of the wind. Again, the winds will be picking up as we go through this evening and overnight. But once again, because the center will be farther offshore, I no longer expect hurricane force wind gusts along our coastline. Instead, I'm expecting wind gusts, as you will see, mainly around 50 to 60 miles per hour. So this is at about 11 o'clock this evening, increasing in Titusville and in Melbourne, up to about 48, 49 miles per hour over in Titusville at 4 a.m. This is the peak of the storm. Wind gusts 31 in Sanford, not even tropical storm. 29 in Orlando, 27 up in Palm Coast. But by 8 a.m., the winds will start to really pick up over towards Palm Coast. So again, wait until very late tonight if you're up in Flagler County and northern Volusia County for the stronger wind gusts. Notice the winds are already coming down at 8 a.m. over in Melbourne. Still gusting at times around 29 to 30 miles per hour, but overall improving weather for Brevard County during the morning hours. In Metro Orlando, pretty stiff westerly winds still even at noon tomorrow coming in out of the west. We'll start to get some breaks in the clouds. It really won't be until later in the afternoon that we'll definitely start to see a little more sunshine as the winds will be increasing out of the west. And then as you can see by evening, the winds really start to break down. Again, up in Palm Coast, you'll still get some gusts in the evening up to about 30, but that should be about it. On radar, we've been spying these rain showers, and we've been tracking this rain with our Guardian radar. You can see the showers and a few thunderstorms even developing out towards Ocala. That tells me they're kind of like hybrid thunderstorms. They're not actual true feeder bands coming in from Dorian. Instead, just for the heat of the day, we got a line of storms to develop and blew through Ocala. Right now, some heavy rain currently tracking coming from New Smyrna Beach. We're tracking that down towards Midway, moving very quickly into Oviedo in about another 20 to 30 minutes. The rain will pick up, and then right after that, it'll hit Castleberry. So expect to get some gusty winds gusting up to about 30 to 35 with this band of rain. Also in Ocala, you just saw some heavier showers moving through, but here's core of wind and rain. Again, the tropical storm force sustained winds, you have to go 20 miles offshore to hit them. So again, that's the great news. Just that extra 20 miles to the east, instead of the tropical storm sustained winds hitting our coastline right now, they are 20 miles offshore. So that's why, again, the track we've been showing is so important. Right now, the actual center of circulation is 91 miles. So we've been talking about 90 to 100. Right now it's 90, but remember, if it keeps going more north as opposed to northwest, that number is going to increase up to 100 possibly. So we're talking about up to 110. Here's a visible satellite picture again showing high of Dorian still hanging on. Again, it's not going to fall apart completely because, again, the Gulf Stream waters are running right here, and it's feeding on that. So that's going to keep it as a Category 2 hurricane, basically, as we the night tonight. So again, it's not going to weaken a whole heck of a lot. Again, a little wider view showing one more good thing. Look at the western edge really getting pinched right now. So again, we're getting some dry air coming in from the west that is getting sucked into the center. And then even notice now, just north of the center, there's actually some breaks in the clouds. So that's the eye. And north of the eye, the sun's breaking out. So again, it really goes to show how Dorian is starting to weaken. I'll talk much more county by county on the wind, also much more on the total rainfall we're expecting over the next 24 hours. I'll have that coming up.
Glenn, thank you. The death toll in the Bahamas stands at 5, but rescue crews fear it could grow.
Video from the islands coming in fast. News station anchor Stephen Howe back now with a look at the images, Stephen.
Yeah, devastating, guys, for sure. This is a look at the hurricane from space, the view from the International Space Station, and just how massive the eye of the hurricane was as it slammed, then sat on top of the Bahamas for a day and a half. From space to back down to Earth, look at this. This is reality for people on the islands. Water flooding into the second story of a home. Watch the waves lap against the sliding glass door. That's 20 feet off the ground. The entire home trashed. Now to another piece of new video, a neighbor begging for help.
The storm has calmed down a little bit. We're trying to get out of here. Y'all send help. Please send help. Now send help. Please send help. We need to get out of here. Thank you.
A desperate situation there in Freeport for many people. This is the first look at the damage for this family who was trapped as the hurricane battered the island. More high water now. This one from Grand Bahama Island. 13,000 homes obliterated across the islands. Neighborhoods completely underwater. It's hard to tell where the ocean ends and streets begin. Just about every home is flooded. A man going door to door in knee-deep water here to check on his neighbors. Now, we'll continue to monitor all the new video as it comes in from the Bahamas and bring you the very latest. For now, live in studio, Stephen Houck, Fox 35 News.
Sad scene there, Stephen. Thank you. On the Brevard County coast, conditions have calmed down over the past hour.
The news station's Mike Magnoli is live out there on Melbourne Beach. Mike, what are the conditions like right now?
Good to talk to you, Charles and Luann. A lot easier to report and to hear you guys than it was an hour ago. About an hour ago, we had one of those rain squalls, the rain hitting you in the face, blowing sand in your face. Things have tapered off, and the crowd is back now, taking a look at the surf and taking a look at conditions out here. That's really been the story all day long. You get these on again, off again rain bands and those gusty winds. But as you heard Glenn just saying, we are only looking at tropical storm force winds going into tonight. Show you some video from the places that we've been to today. Down at the Sebastian Inlet, which is right over the Brevard County line, we saw some impressive surf, the waves battering the pier down there. And we also went a little bit further down on Melbourne Beach to take a look at the homes and some of the places that are the most vulnerable in storms like this. And, you know, at times today, it looks pretty hairy with the waves coming up very close to the dunes. I talked to a lot of folks over the course of the day about, you know, how are you feeling? And there were still some nerves for some folks, a sigh of relief. But you think about where we were a couple of days ago and the uncertainty with this storm and the anxiety. Listen.
It's because of the words on TV like catastrophic and all that. But now I feel I'm not afraid anymore. I feel like it's just going to kind of skirt us like they said. And this is probably the brunt of it other than some rain.
We'll see what happens. If we need to get out, we'll certainly get out of here. But we'll base it on these conditions today.
We dodged the bullet. That gentleman that you heard second in that string of sound bites, he was talking about, okay, are we going to evacuate? They had ordered the evacuation for coastal Brevard County for the Barrier Island on Sunday morning, and a lot of people did. A couple of folks wanted to stand by and see, and it looks like we are really going to miss the worst of this storm. We're live on Melbourne Beach. I'm Mike Magnoli, Fox 35 News.
And just up the coast from Mike, new time-lapse video from Daytona Beach shores. You can see the dark clouds, high surf, and some on-again, off-again rain. Well, we have team coverage in Volusia County tonight, starting with the news station's Holly Bristow in Daytona. Holly, some people just can't stay out of the water there.
Yeah, no, people just can't seem to stay out of the water. They've had people surfing. We've had people in here just sticking their toes in, little kids in there up to their knees, which for the record is making me pretty nervous. And the wind just keeps picking up. I've been playing with our little wind gauge meter. Ooh, just got a 27.5 meter reading on here. It's pretty much bouncing between about 16 miles per hour and 27.5 miles per hour out here. So the wind is definitely picking up, and so is the surf. It's been rough all day, and for the most part, folks are obeying the double red flag warning. It's been flying late Sunday afternoon. Double red flag is a warning that means that nobody is allowed in the water. However, there have been a few surfers and kiteboarders in here. We talked to Beach Patrol Captain Terry Malfris. She tells me that they're doing their best to keep folks out of the water. She's got a couple of roving lifeguards and Beach Patrol out here, but they're having an issue getting around in their cars because the tides have been so high. And they've got 47 miles of coastline to patrol, but she says they're really doing their best to keep folks out of the water.
We are enforcing that. We did have one arrest yesterday for that county ordinance violation. We do try to gain compliance and, you know, warn people, and usually they come out.
And those are the double red flags right there. As you can see, they are getting pretty tattered there in the wind. That surfer was charged with the violation of the county ordinance, which was for disobeying the double red flags, as well as for disorderly conduct. Now, there is another Dorian-related ordinance that's about to be going into effect within the next hour, and that is the curfew. It starts at 6 o'clock tonight, but if you look around here, you'll still see there are plenty of people milling around both up on the boardwalk and down on the beach. That curfew is for everybody beachside in Volusia County. You need to be off the beach, back home, and in your house by 6 o'clock, and that is something that the sheriff says that they are going to be strictly enforcing. we'll be out here. We'll certainly let you know how that goes. For now, live on Daytona Beach, Holly Bristow, Fox 35 News.
Holly, thank you. It is really kind of the same story in New Smyrna Beach.
And cops are trying to keep people away from the coast. The news station's Daniel Lama reports.
We are along A1A here in New Smyrna Beach, and you can see behind me there are some officers working here on the A1A causeway. They look to be stopping every car. They're looking at IDs, and they're trying to make sure that the people who are going over to the beach actually have a reason to do so. Here in New Smyrna Beach, we've seen some of these stormy conditions roll in today, higher wind gusts. We've seen some downpours and also those giant waves at the beach. We talked to the mayor earlier today, and he told us one of the things they will be watching is the wind, because that could have an impact on these bridges in town.
We're hoping that it stays off coast, but even if it does, there will be impacts. We hope everyone just gets into safety, lets us assess damages after the storm.
A mandatory evacuation is in effect for Beachside, Volusia County, and a curfew will also begin tonight at 6 p.m. and last until 6 Wednesday morning. In New Smyrna Beach, Danielle Lama, Fox 35 News.
Okay, we'd like to take you down the coast a little bit to South Florida. This is video from Boynton Beach. This is dash cam video showing cars slowly moving through flooded streets there. Police are saying there is no reason to be driving right now, so they want everybody to go home. Water is also creeping up to front doors in a mobile home park, which is very close to the water there.
You are watching expanded around-the-clock coverage of Hurricane Dorian here on Fox 35.
Up next, we're going up to the coast to see what's happening in Flagler County. We'll be right back.
As Dorian moves up Florida's coast, your team of Fox 35 News weather experts helps you prepare by keeping you informed.
Those of you that don't know me, and I just wanted to give a big congratulations, number one, to San Lucie County and the job that they've done here. I don't know that you can see it or you've experienced it, but there's a huge room back here with all kinds of experts in there that have all kinds of specialties. And this gentleman here, Howard, has led a team that has brought together those experts in such a way that it really served the Treasure Coast. It really put in perspective, if you will, how these different and very minute intricacies work together and really made a team out of that. Whether you have a deputy, whether you have a person who is in planning, whether you have a person that's in the environment, all these different teams came together and really helped out during this. And so big kudos to you, Howard, and your team here. To the government officials that have been a part of this, you've done an exemplary job for those people that have put you in office, and thank you so much for your efforts. Sheriff, I can't thank you enough for the professionalism. Chief as well, and what you've done throughout the time here. To the city of Port St. Lucie and the residents there, you have a great team that's around you as well. You may not know it as well. They have their own separate EOC over there, has been coordinating up here, and they've done a fantastic job as well. I'd like to say we played a little part in that in the state, and we're very pleased to be able to be good partners with a group like this that can really put it together. So I think Sheriff put it best in saying that, God forbid we have another one of these, but if you do, you have got a great team here that is looking out for you. So thank you so much for coming and being a part of this as well, for all of you. For those guardsmen that also left their homes during this time, over 4,200 in the state of Florida, thank you for your service and thank you for your time in coming away from your families to serve others. For those 17,000 members of the FPL force, an unprecedented group that has gathered together, has taken care of over 60,000 outages thus far throughout this. Thank you so much for your time. We have Kate Cotner with us here. She's been part of our team here as well. It's her first storm, I believe, going through this. So much. They've done an exemplary job. Here's a private company that's led the way and is leading the way in the nation and setting a great example here in Florida. So thank you again for being here and being a part of this, and I will yield the podium.
Hello, I'm Diane Hobbit-Burney. I'm the chief of the Fort Pierce Police Department, and I too want to give our appreciation to Howard and everyone that was a part of this. We got through this in a safe manner, but our hearts do go out to all of those who suffered tragedy in the situation. The officers left their families and their homesake to be a part of this great event that transpired, but they put their safety and a number of things aside for your safety. And I just want you to know that we will continue to do that once the bridge opens up. We will continue to patrol in all the evacuated areas because we want you to know that your property as well as yourselves will be safe when you return to the city. I truly appreciate all the officers that were involved, our community for continuing to work together and taking care of each other. It just shows that Fort Pierce pride, and I'm so grateful to be a part of that. Thank you so much.
So I've heard a lot of things from a lot of different people. Toby, you talked about the room where everybody is in there working, the wonderful staff. I want to give kudos to them, but I want to give kudos to their families who are sitting at home. They had to board up the house. They had to take care of the kids. So again, kudos not only to the staff who have done a phenomenal job, not only to all of the law enforcement, everybody who has been here and stepped up to the plate, and not only that, worked so well together. So I want to congratulate all of the people of the county. We are St. Lucie strong. We've gotten through this. We will continue to work through this. I would also say, if you have a choice, don't go out on the roads tonight. The wind is picking up. We have rain out there. I would say if you can do anything, at least wait till morning. Howard, I appreciate your leadership through this. You put an amazing team together. They are all working, giving their time. Many of them have worked through the night. So I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate the people of St. Lucie County. Thank you.
They're told they brought back at least one body, and they say they will not stop until they get everybody. They have hours, if not days, of work ahead of them. Patrick Oppman, Stephen, Freeport, Bahamas.
Until we get all of them, we are Bahamians.
Yeah. I mean, a volunteer operation happening right now in those conditions. I mean, these poor people with everything they've been through, they're not leaving. And they know there are so many people there that still need their help. Them running to get that little boy and to make sure he was safe.
If you want your faith in humanity restored, look at what the people of the Bahamas are doing for each other. And as you heard the reporter mention, the Bahamian government has not been able to offer any rescue. They actually suspended rescue operations and have not started them again officially because of the safety factor, not being able to get to those folks, but neighbor helping neighbor to save them from the devastating effects of Hurricane Dorian. We're going to take a very short break. You're watching our continuing coverage, extended coverage, Hurricane Dorian, WPBF 25 News.
Color Coast, Tybee Island is one of the spots.
That's right. Our Jake Wallace is also there. Let's join him now live on Tybee.
Well, yeah, here on Tybee Island, you can see behind me some folks still enjoying a beach day before Dorian hits, but there are some folks on this island not having nearly as much fun. They live over on Lewis Avenue, which is kind of right at the Big Bend here on Tybee Island, and the flooding problems during hurricanes has been well documented there. You see, Lewis Avenue surrounded by water on three sides. Many of the houses on that street aren't lifted. They're still at ground level. So you can only imagine an area like Tybee that has such storm surge problems, what can happen? They dealt with flooding during Hurricane Matthew. They dealt with flooding during Hurricane Irma. And I spoke with a few people today who are obviously frustrated that once again, more flooding issues expected on that street. I spoke with one lady named June who's lived on Lewis Avenue for 50 years, and she was getting out of town today. She said the flooding she experienced during Irma was something she doesn't ever want to have to deal with again. Take a listen.
We had 4 feet of water in Irma, and I'm only this tall. So I was getting nervous, and this is a bigger storm. So that means it would be higher water. You put everything up high and hope it doesn't, hope the roof don't come off, and then it gets the high stuff too.
Now, you heard what June said there about you put everything up high, and that's what a lot of people spent yesterday and today doing, getting all their belongings as high in their houses as possible, hoping for the best. I saw a few folks on Lewis Avenue packing everything into U-Haul trucks, into storage tanks. They said a lot of this is kind of like moving out of your house for a few days. It's obvious and it's understandable the frustration they face. Live on Tybee Island, I'm Jake Wallace, WTOC News.
There's some video there of the satellite image of Hurricane Dorian as it is churning out there in the Atlantic, going past the Florida coast right now. Of course, our First Alert weather team is hard at work tracking every detail for you in the coastal empire, low country, and beyond. We'll be back in just a minute.
Dorian now being felt across much of central Florida with wind and waves and rain along much of the coastline.
And we know that we've got some mandatory evacuation orders in parts of Flagler County, also going into effect here shortly in Volusia and Brevard as well.
Yeah, Dorian is now a strong Category 2 storm, but it's slowly but surely picking up speed.
We have our team coverage starting with Chief Meteorologist Tony Manolfi and Meteorologist Eric Burrs. Guys, we've been with our viewers here and our folks, getting them through this hurricane, really since it all began forecasting it last week. So what do you think now as it approaches our coast?
Well, you know, everything is behaving. Everything is as expected, especially with each continued model run honing in on that position about 100 miles offshore. Having said that, though, we're starting to see on the radar and with various reports in the field of some pretty good wind gusts here.
Yeah, we've seen gusts well into tropical storm force range. This is a live look at Volusia County and New Smyrna Beach. And, you know, the one thing that stands out to me is that there's still beach at this point because we're now pushing toward low tide, Tony.
That's right. And that actually is a huge point, but things do begin to reverse itself because about 1:15 in the morning, we get a high tide. So again, we're not done with the coastal beach erosion. This is going to be a big concern for us overnight tonight and through the day tomorrow. But notice the forward speed. Can't say this enough. It is moving a little bit more quickly towards the northwest, and with time, it'll get quicker and quicker. By the time we get to Wednesday, 2 o'clock, look where it's at already. Due east or just east-northeast of Flagler Beach and Marineland, and moving. That's a good thing for us because the longer it would stay around, the more pounding surf would come back in our coastline. It's going to get ripped up pretty good here, but at least we're beginning to move this thing, and it's not sitting in place offshore of our East Coast for 24 to 36 hours. So there. The latest now on the hurricane warnings up and down the coast here. They've been lifted now south of Brevard County, but for Brevard County, Volusia County, on the Flagler County, hurricane warnings remain in place. Tropical storm warnings have just been discontinued now for Osceola County. We still have the tropical storm warnings for eastern Marion County, inland Volusia County, Lake County, Orange County, and on into Seminole County through the overnight tonight. Let's take a look down to satellite presentation. You can see on its closest approach to the Cape Canaveral area between about 80 to 90 miles offshore. And then as it continues to build off towards the north and the west, it'll continue to get pulled to the north, get quicker and quicker in its forward speed. And then with that secondary cold front coming on in, begin to push it off towards the north and the east. The big concern, though, is the wind well outside of that forecast cone. We are talking about scraping there, those hurricane force winds. You can see with each wobble how the hurricane force winds there in the red get awfully close there towards our coastline. So likely we will be seeing hurricane force wind gusts along the coast. We've jumped up to 35 to 60 miles an hour here into Brevard County within the last couple of hours. And you can see a very large outer band just offshore and another one beginning to scrape on the eastern side of Brevard County and inland areas. You just saw David Daniels' live shot, a heavy squall coming in right through the Lake Jessup area. There's Cocoa Beach. There's Melbourne Beach down towards Brevard. Big swath of wind and rain energy now going to be coming ashore here. And within that band, we have even stronger winds, 45, 55, 60 mile an hour winds just offshore, literally by about a mile. That's trying to rotate back towards the west. Into Sumter County, a couple of fast moving showers, but a big band of rain blew through New Smyrna Beach, is now right along the 417 there into Seminole County. Wind gust here approaching 40 miles an hour, nearly tropical storm force near Lake Jessup. So we'll continue to watch the trends on that. The other big story, look at the large waves, 33-foot waves now on the north side of Dorian, and all that wave action is being pushed towards our coastline because flow around low pressure is counterclockwise. So, Eric, that's going to be a big concern now as we start talking about storm inundation and storm surge.
And of course, as the storm system continues lifting to the north, the impacts are starting to come more and more in focus. And that potential storm surge is certainly coming into focus. For Brevard County, this is actually good news because you're sitting at about 3-foot storm surge height. And I want to show you down right at the Sebastian Inlet, you see where that green color actually starts to go away. We're actually expecting storm surge to be less than 3 feet. So that's actually very, very good. It's a subtle rise in water levels. The further north you go, though, we're getting to more in that 3-4 foot range here. And by about the Kennedy Space Center and points up to the north along the barrier island here, we're looking at about 6-foot rise in water. Now, what does that mean? Well, when you think of normal sea level on a calm day, you're adding 6 feet to that because the winds are pushing and piling all this water ashore. And that even extends, by the way, into the Indian River Lagoon. You can kind of see a subtle increase in water height. Even up here through Volusia County, you're talking about 5 to 6 feet of additional height. And that really plays in around the high tide, which we saw one at noon today. And Tony, you're going to talk more about the next high tide cycle. But watch what happens here into Flagler County. This is a particular side of our coastline that any storm system seems more susceptible to storm surge. And the new information, Tony, and I find this interesting, the new slosh model actually picks up the storm surge a little bit, running more 7 to 8 feet here.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. The combination of high pressure and that storm system and northeasterly flow is probably the likelihood of that. Now, Eric was talking about the next high tide cycle. Well, there you go, 1:15 now, Wednesday morning, and a second high tide during the afternoon at 1:52, and then very early Thursday morning as Dorian is lifting away. So we have 3 more big high tide cycles that we have to pay extra close attention to, where we could get into trouble along the coast, guys.
All right, Tony, an update now for our local schools. Orange County Public Schools say they will reopen on Thursday. Student activities are planned to resume on that day.
Elementary open houses will be rescheduled and athletic competitions will be determined at the school's discretion, except for football.
Now, freshmen in JV, that's canceled and may be rescheduled at this point. They also are telling us that varsity will be moved from Friday to Monday.
And just into the West newsroom, Universal theme parks are closing tonight at 6 o'clock.
And that includes Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios. City Walk will remain open, though. Now, previously, only Volcano Bay Park was closed, but Universal just announced it's also closing at 6 o'clock. That's just under an hour from now. But 30 minutes left to enjoy the park if you're there.
Hurricane Dorian is beginning to its track dangerously close to the Florida coast. It's weakened to a Cat 2, but officials say Floridians should stay prepared.
Jamie Garola is in Pompano Beach with the very latest.
More heartbreaking images from the Bahamas, where the magnitude of devastation continues to grow. This is dramatic video of a journalist and his family abandoning their home, escaping by wading through water chest high, carrying their dogs. It's the story of thousands of other victims, at least 13,000 homes severely damaged or destroyed.
This is the water by my back door and glass.
Hurricane Dorian parked over the islands for a day and a half, but the U.S. Coast Guard raced to the Bahamas, providing relief, rescue, and humanitarian aid.
It's as if we're fighting a war with the enemy having all the weapons at its disposal, and we have absolutely nothing. We're hopeless.
Dorian has since lost strength and is finally moving away from the Bahamas. Now, the hurricane aiming toward the U.S., appearing to spare Florida, but the governor and other officials telling residents to stay alert.
While we think this is a much better track than what we were looking at 72 hours ago, we just ask people to stay safe, remain vigilant.
Don't assume anything, because it only takes a movement here or a movement there, and we're back into the hurricane force winds.
Up the East Coast into Savannah, people are still preparing for the worst, with long lines of evacuees looking for shelter. North Carolina's coastline also bracing for impact, boarding up, packing up, and getting out.
And even with this intermittent weather, there are signs that some areas in Florida are returning back to normal. Streets are full with traffic now. Some stores have reopened, also some of the major airports. And in some areas, schools will resume tomorrow. In Pompano Beach, Florida, Jamie Garola, NBC News.
Over here, a lot of sailboats board in the river. As people wait this thing out, we're getting a sense of Dorian fatigue here. Another day of waiting as this storm approaches. High tide at Cocoa Beach. Wind-whipped seawater creeping closer to the dunes. Sandbagged homes nearby.
This is our high one. It's going to be crazier at midnight.
With Dorian weaker and the forecast taking its track farther east, residents are feeling safer and venturing out.
Going stir crazy.
Getting a look before the weather goes downhill.
Your home's all boarded up and it's so dark like a dungeon, you just got to get out.
Bill Berman taking his pet monkey for a stroll.
Just enjoying the weather. It's usually so hot, so now we've got a nice breeze. So figure we'd take a walk.
But emergency managers are concerned about people letting their guard down. The storm is still expected to bring heavy rains and tropical storm force winds tonight into tomorrow.
While we think this is a much better track than what we were looking at 72 hours ago, we just ask people to stay safe, remain vigilant.
The same message they've been hearing for at least 8 days and counting. Now, one of the big concerns is for storm surge. They've revised the predictions down a bit. It's either 3 to 5 feet or as much as 7 feet, depending on the area. But there is a concern about storm surge, flooding of low-lying areas, and that's the big concern right now. Reporting from Cape Canaveral, I'm Sally Kidd.
Sally, our colleague, usually in D.C., but used to work here in Florida, just about as close to the river edge as you wanted to be there. That's pretty close. Listen, we have a very important update on schools reopening for you.
You've been waiting for this. I know a lot of you have been commenting on my Facebook account, and now we can tell you St. Lucie County making the decision to reopen schools as of Thursday. So they're hoping that tomorrow will give them enough time to clean up those schools that are serving as shelters throughout the day today and tomorrow, and they plan to reopen schools Thursday. So we'll take a look one more time. Palm Beach County, Palm Beach County opening Thursday, Indian River opening Friday, Martin County, St. Lucie County, and Okeechobee County all opening schools Thursday.
Just to sum up, schools will be open Thursday unless you're in Indian River County. Indian River County kids go back to school on Friday. Let's take a look at, now that our attention is turned back to the Bahamas, we're going to give you an idea of where you can bring relief supplies to help the people, the Bahamian people, starting with the Palm Beach Outlets, their supply drive. They reopen at 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. They're looking for first aid kits, cleaning supplies, canned goods, box fans, flashlights, and more. We'll go to the next list. Leather work gloves. Obviously, just cleaning up debris is dangerous. Hand sanitizer, non-perishable food, water, tarps. They're also looking for tents, toiletries, diapers, and wipes, both for adults and babies, because running water won't be available as well, let alone soap. That's at the Palm Beach Outlets tomorrow.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, they're not the only location. iPic Theater also starting a supply drive. This is as of tomorrow, Wednesday, at the iPic Boca Raton, 301 Plaza Real in Boca, the iPic in Delray Beach at Southeast 4th Avenue, and at the iPic down in Miami and North Miami Beach at 3701. This is what they're looking for, the supplies list: canned food items, first aid supplies like hand sanitizer, cleaning and hand wipes, non-perishable food items, bottled water, tents, generators, inflatable mattresses, toiletries, diapers, baby formula, batteries, flashlights, the hand crank radios, solar chargers, bottom line, anything that you can imagine, because as you can imagine, these folks have lost everything.
So think about the supplies that you gathered to get ready for the storm, to think about what you probably would need if you had lost everything. That's what they need. And again, our hearts go out to the people of the Bahamas. Just a few minutes ago, you were talking about people wanting to get out and experience the fresh air again, feeling a sense of relief because the hurricane warning has been lifted for everybody in our viewing area. Terry Parker's live in Vero Beach, where I'm sure slowly, Terry, people are trying to get back to normal a little bit, especially with the good news.
Right, that's exactly right, Todd. We're here at the beach, at Vero Beach, and lots of people are out here. They're looking at the waves, and what you want to show, Kevin, these are all the kind of people who are trying to get out. So basically, Indian River County, like everywhere else, has lifted their evacuation order, and